There are notable names still remaining on this offseason's free agent list. Clint Capella, Marcus Smart, and Rodney Hood are all restricted free agents, while Dwayne Wade and Jamal Crawford are unrestricted. Capella reportedly turned down a 5-year, $85 million contract offer from Houston last week, and he's seeking a contract in the $100 million range. Because he is restricted, the Rockets are able to match any offer sheet he receives from another team. So at this point, what's taking so long, and are the Rockets still the right fit for Clint?
Well, I think they're definitely the right fit, and I think Marcus and Clint have both suffered from the fact that there was so little cap space available and so few suitors that really could have put a big offer on the table. But for different reasons, teams haven't done that. In the Clint Capella situation, Houston really has to have him and would really almost be forced to match any offer for him, especially given that they've lost Bamute and Trevor Ariza. He's really a one-man wrecking ball defensively for them. They're switch happy. He's one of the best bigs in the league, maybe the very best at switching out on the wings and protecting the rim. His ability to give them vertical spacing is critical to everything they do. And because there's so much cap space next year, I understand why Clint is going to be very judicious in signing a deal, because he could very possibly get a full max deal next year. So he doesn't have a lot of incentive to sign a below market deal now. Marcus Smart's a little different situation. Marcus is a guy who, because he is greater than the sum of his parts as a winner, that's really his skill set. Only the best teams truly benefit from what Marcus Smart is. If you're going to benefit from the full bandwidth of this guy, you need to be playing for something meaningful. You need to be playing meaningful playoff games, because his ability to dominate a fourth quarter when it matters the most, he's almost like a throwback to when Manu was a young player. He plays his biggest and best moments in the biggest moments of a game. But if you're not going to be playing in those moments, you're going to talk a lot more about what he can't do. He's not a great shooter. He's not a true point guard. He doesn't really have a position in a lot of ways, but he guards all of them. So he's such an unusual piece, it makes it very difficult. It's very similar to what we went through with Matthew Dellavedova when he was restricted. Super valuable to us. We knew he wasn't going to get a really large offer, and you hope that you can find a common ground where you can sign him to a long-term deal, because if Boston is in the same situation that Houston will be, and they're going into a space environment where they're competing for Marcus Smart, it could be very difficult to keep him moving forward. And
Smart could also accept the team's $6.1 million qualifying offer and then become an unrestricted free agent next summer. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler has turned down a 4-year extension with the Minnesota Timberwolves, reportedly worth $100 million. Now, it's not the first time that Butler has gambled on himself. He did the same prior to the 2014-15 season, turning down a 4-year deal worth close to $44 million. It paid off. As you may remember, he went on to win the NBA's Most Improved Player award the following season and signed a max extension worth more than $90 million, not just $90. It
more
was a few extra than 90. I would have signed that.
He turned down an awful lot of money.
But next season's free agency class is also star-studded. Jimmy is set to be joined by Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson. How, though, Griff, is this offseason's free agency affecting next year's class?
Well, because that class is so star-laden and because there is so much cap space, you could have as many as 20, 21 teams with the ability to create maximum cap space. And some teams have been very mindful and judicious and could create 2 max cap spots. The Clippers being one of them, Brooklyn being another. They've done a really good job of planning for that crop and for that class. So because of that, there's going to be a lot of things that have happened. One, free agents aren't getting paid this summer because people are keeping their powder dry to some degree. The other thing that may happen is you may see that tax teams have a very difficult time finding a home for future money to get away from it, because nobody wants to tie up that cap space because it is a coveted free agent class.
So do you think then the landscape of the league will look entirely different, similar to this offseason?
Well, I certainly think Kawhi, Kyrie, I think to a lesser degree Jimmy Butler, those are all guys that you can look at and think might be looking at potentially teaming up somewhere. And USA Basketball, which starts their training camp July 25th, is a really meaningful period of time for every team hoping to land star free agents, because this is where legalized tampering takes place. And if you're going to, A, know that Kawhi Leonard is healthy, you're going to see him there. And B, if you're going to have your stars start to build what they hope is their future together, you need to have the template of cap space for them to do it. So it's really meaningful if you're sitting there on max cap space for 2 players right now, because you go into that Team USA training camp with the ability to sort of cajole people in that direction.